Hello, everyone. How is it this morning? Is it a bit tough, right, after the after parties and the after parties? Every time I come to Latvia, there's always after parties, and somehow I end up in a sauna at 6 a.m. Well, my mother was from Finland, actually, so I'm used to this, but when I was a kid. Anyway, do you believe what you see with your eyes? I don't know if you know this, but when you look at things, you see this kind of very smooth animation of life in front of yourself, right? But actually, this is not what happens. Our eyes actually see in very, very segmented sequences. And our brain is the one that actually makes it up and creates this smoothness, the fact that you can see me walk seamlessly. Our eyes keep moving. That's been proven scientifically. And actually, our brain is a narrative machine. It creates stories. This is how we built. We're built by stories. We're built by narratives. Whole humanity has been built by narratives. We normalize stuff. The reason we can go along, the reason we can actually survive this is because we keep creating narratives. If you were to take someone from Latvia 150 years ago and somewhat magically put him here today, 150 years in a split second, what would he say? He would be freaked out. The noise, the cars, the people, what is going on? I don't understand. Probably even kill himself or herself because he wouldn't understand, because he wouldn't have a time to normalize. We normalize stuff. We think that the things we see in front of us, in order to survive, we actually make a story around it to say, oh, that's okay, this is my life. This is okay that we have global warming. It's not okay, but we have to cope with it. Otherwise, we would not be able to cope with the information overload. So we normalize stuff. This is how we get along. This is how we create resilience. This is how humanity survived for all of 10,000s and thousands of years. It's because we normalize stuff. We're not freaked out when we see like the sun disappearing behind the moon anymore, because we normalize it. Of course, the scientific process allowed us to understand what happens, but we created a story behind it. That's our resilience. Some people actually want to believe in a higher power and higher calling. We actually fight death by actually normalizing, but actually creating stories around who we are. This is what we do as human beings. But this is also sometimes this normalizing of stuff creates, and we all know that, we're all addicted to our mobile phones, we're all addicted to the devices we have in our pockets. We have these cravings all the time, and we normalize them. It's okay to actually touch your phone 2,000 times a day. Right? Again, that person who would have come for 150 years ago would be completely misunderstanding, and what the hell is wrong with you guys? We normalize. We have these cravings that we normalize, and it's good and bad. We normalize. But the great thing about normalizing, the great thing about telling stories and our brains telling stories is that it creates, and that's something unique about humans, foreboding. We can forecast. We try to understand. We try to make stories about the future. Where are we going? So we take lessons from the past, sometimes we don't, and we create a story about a future, understanding where we're going. We try to sense the future. This is what we do. We always try, and you guys as entrepreneurs, for those of you who are, you try to also have a vision, you try to go somewhere, you create a forecast for yourself, you look for an horizon. Actually, most companies do that. You create a vision, which is your big plan, and then you have what you do now, how you raise money, for instance. This, you create horizons, and we play with these horizons. The very far beyond horizon, and there's the horizon of today. And in between, you play to actually try to again, create a story, a vision around your idea, around your startup, but also around your life. So, the big R that everybody talks about in the past few months, which one is it? It's obviously recession. Are we going into a recession? I don't know, to be honest with you. When TechChill told me, can you talk about whether or not there's going to be a recession, nobody knows. The one thing I know, however, is that I built many startups, and I built startups through recessions, through downturns. And it's, you know, it's an experience. It's something that you have to live through to understand, and maybe some of you will understand it very soon. I hope there's not going to be a recession, but there might be one. Why? Because again, we normalize. Again, we create a story. When everybody believes there's going to be a recession, we actually are creating the recession. We are creating a self-fulfilling prophecy, because suddenly we do, oh, maybe I have to be more careful, so maybe I'll invest less, for instance, for startups. So you have to pay attention. So that suddenly a lot of you may be burning. A lot of you will actually disappear. But by the way, you know what? This is what startups do. We disappear. Most of the startups actually have failed, many actually disappear. But suddenly this process can actually be enhanced, go faster, because maybe we have this feeling that we might be in a recession, no matter the numbers. Again, I'm not here pretending to be an economist. I'm trying to tell you where it could happen, burn. But you know what? You have to have this risk profile. The one good thing that happens when we have a recession, and I know it's a bit harsh to say, is that it acts as a cleaning process. Some ideas were maybe never meant to be, or some ideas, the timing was wrong. And you know what? Maybe simply a downturn will accelerate. You're not going to get funding because, oops, well, bad luck. You know, your idea was not the right time in the right place. That will happen. That has happened to me, actually. I was about to get funded, and suddenly a recession happens. Well, poof, no more money. Well, maybe I was wrong. Maybe my idea was wrong. I don't know. To this day, I'm not sure. But you know what? It acts as a cleansing process. But this is what you do when you're an entrepreneur, when you're a creator. You are playing with risk. And risk, what is risk? It's again a narrative. It's something you tell yourself, what are my risks? What is the horizon I'm looking for? What is this narrative I'm creating about the future? Can I get there? And all your risk profiles are obviously very different. What I see, however, is that I don't care. Everything is an opportunity, including maybe, again, this big R word, the recession word we keep hearing about. If there's an opportunity, why? First, the world is freaking big. I'm very lucky to be traveling all around the world to see a lot of startup ecosystems. And trust me, I've seen so many startup ecosystems, from Pakistan to Japan to the Philippines to, I don't know, Brazil. I've been to most of the startup ecosystems. They all believe the same system of belief that you guys have here. None is different than another. Of course, some of them are more mature than others, but it doesn't matter. The world is a big place. But you know what? Actually, the West, and you are part of the West, although you've been having a different history, that Western Europe is being disrupted. Because you know what? 20 years ago, when I was going into the job market, I was competing with what? 500 million people? You guys are competing with 8 billion people, suddenly. 8 billion people have ideas. 8 billion people want to have a better life. And 8 billion people are creating a narrative about the future. And suddenly, obviously, it becomes harder. It becomes harder to create for some, and that compared to 20 years ago, the West has been and is being disrupted. The other big trend and the other big opportunity is the age shift. We're getting older. You guys are not, obviously, you're all very young, but actually the world is getting older, especially in the West, but also China and other countries. And by its getting older, it creates opportunity. There's a lot of stuff that hasn't been done, hasn't been created for these populations. That's a big opportunity. So no matter you have to make a choice about the narrative you create. Do you want to believe that there's going to be a downturn, or do you want to take up to the opportunity? Everyone is becoming smart. You're not freaking smarter than everybody else, guys. I'm sorry. There's no one smarter. I live in London, we're not smarter. Companies used to actually send, white people all around the world called expats, because they were the bright people that were actually helping other companies and other economies. Nowadays, you don't need that. You go to Lagos in Nigeria and you have super smart people. The world is a big place. The narrative of the world is a big place. There's 2.5 billion people entering the middle classes. That means 2.5 billion people that actually have money to spend and they can take a narrative, a shot at their own future. And the most important number within that is 1 billion women. There's 1 billion women entering the workforce. It's 1 billion women that will and have the means to create their lives, to take their destiny in their own hands. Another opportunity. This world was not made by and for women. Right? And suddenly you have this massive opportunity. You have to think bigger than thinking, and that's the luck of you being here in a small country. I was born in a small country, and I was born in Switzerland. Small countries do not have the luxury to look at their internal market. It's too small. So take that opportunity and look outside of all the other opportunities that exist, including this world that was not made for women. Another big trend, there's going to be, at least depending on the statistics, it doesn't matter here, I'm not teaching you a course at university, $17 trillion will exchange hands in the next 5 years. Because the people that made money are now retiring and dying. And suddenly their kids are getting the money. Maybe not you, but suddenly these kids with different ways of seeing the world are getting the money and might be the ones that will want to invest in people like you. This is a massive opportunity, no matter the potential downturn. And everybody, as I said, is getting smarter. Everybody flocks into cities because cities have this massive ability called superlinearity. You know, like a virus, viruses happen faster in cities when everybody gets the flu because obviously you're next to each other. The same happens with IDs. So people flock into cities. There's 5 billion people actually living in cities. And that's another opportunity. How do you create a world where everybody wants to live in cities? I'm not saying you should live in cities. I'm not saying that you have to move in a city, but I'm saying there's a lot of opportunity here by Created. And of course, most of it happens in Asia. And the world, you know, no matter if there's a downturn or not, keeps getting reinvented. We're seeing this, right? You've heard just before a panel, you've heard a lot of speeches here. There's a lot of new technologies coming in line. There's a lot of stuff that happens to professing. We have to take up the opportunity. Whether or not we want it, AI will actually take over most of our jobs here. Most of you guys will not have the same job that you have today in about 30 years, because no matter what we want, it will happen. But this is an opportunity as well to think, to actually project yourself, to create that narrative. Where do we want to go with this? Right? You have opportunities to do that. We have opportunities to reinvent this world, and it's going faster. Again, no matter if there's a downturn, no matter if there might be a recession, when I experienced the 3 recession experience, most of the smartest companies were born in actually a recession, including the Amazons, including the PayPals, etc. They took up an opportunity. They said, okay, what can we do now that the people maybe want to be more careful? What can we do now that people have less jobs? This is how the gig economy, no matter what you think about it, the gig economy was created, mostly, right? Everything, the sharing economy, I hate that word. It's going faster and it will not relent. It will go faster and faster and faster. And also, everything will keep rising because we normalize stuff. Pressing a button, here you guys have Taxify, pressing a button to get a car was something completely unheard of 10 years ago. The first time you did this, it was super cool and super awesome. Nowadays, it's a commodity. You don't care anymore. You just you have to press a button and you get something. You want stuff very, very fast. So this rising expectations keep rising, and we normalize. We think that something that was magical the first time you had an iPhone in your hands, you were like, wow, this is such a cool device. We normalized it. The narrative is gone. It's just a commodity. So you have to also imagine what will be the next magical steps, and it's becoming harder and harder because it goes faster and faster and faster. And every time there's always, we see a downturn, what happens? Rules, regulation. There's more and more regulation happening. But you know what? For once, Europe, because we love to regulate stuff in Europe. You know, we're the poster child of regulating shit in Europe. The good thing about that is that for once in fintech, for instance, the fact that we regulated, and the reason we regulated is because we had this financial crisis 10 years ago. We said we need to find a way to create a more competitive playing field. And suddenly we have these rules of PSD2 and open banking. If you don't know what they are, it basically allows startups and banks to play with each other better, because it's thanks to regulation. So the regulation, you have to reframe it. It's not always something bad. You can find the opportunities within. You can fight it and believe that regulation is bad. Fine, do whatever you want, but you should embrace what happens because you have no control. You have to let go. Your narrative has to let go and accept the world around you and find the opportunities in the details. Here, regulation, for instance. So you really have to think, you really have to go into the mindset of users, who you are, who they are, to actually find these little details, these little cracks in the mold that will allow to create the next opportunity. This is what you do, guys, as entrepreneurs. This is what I've done many times as an entrepreneur myself as well. And you need to keep doing it because otherwise you're not in the right game. So you have to choose your disruption. People always talk about this word disruption, but you guys, you have to choose a disruption that you actually want to tackle. There are many, they will not stop. They will keep coming, and they will keep coming. And if you're not there, you can basically go home. But obviously you need to be robust, because the more the world will go faster, the more the opportunities will be created, the more these cravings that I was mentioning earlier will happen. And that's actually something that creates a lot of issues, including mental health issues. You have to choose your narrative. You have to choose the fact that maybe I want to take off. Maybe I shouldn't have 25 notifications a minute. Maybe I should actually take control of my own life. This is a choice that you need to be making. Because if you don't make that choice, you're going to go in the wrong, you might have the best idea, but you're going to go in the wrong direction. You need to find robustness. Another word is be anti-fragile. Learn about the past, learn about others, get mentors, and try not to replicate these mistakes. Try to find your own happiness before finding the money that you think is happiness. You need to create robustness. So how to do that? Well, you have again to go to the heart of your customers, the people that will want to follow you, the people that will, people do not buy things anymore. People buy into things. People do not join your company, they join into the belief of your company. This is what we do as human beings. We create a narrative around these things. Your workers are the same. The reason they are with you, if you're a founder, is because they believe in you and in the vision you set. Again, the narrative. You have to create that story for people around you, otherwise they will not follow you. Every time I had successes, it was because I had, and it's a very big responsibility, trust me, I had people following me because they were believing in what I was telling them and believing in the vision that I set out to do. And I needed to create, and we need to create, and you need to create that experience. I said earlier, what is that experience? I don't know. All of you guys are doing different things, but you need to find that little magical thing that makes you different and that will actually spark something around you. The one thing that is interesting, coming back to narrative, this is why I'm using this spark here as a background in my slides, is because that's the spark that creates the fire. The fire was, at a very early age of humanity, after a day of hunting, for instance, people would gather around the fire and they will talk about their day. And by talking about their day, they will normalize it. They will say, oh, I've seen a mammoth. Oh, wow, this was dangerous. But this is how we created suddenly societies, because we created a narrative around this fire. We gathered and we made ourselves peaceful, and we actually created the world we live in nowadays. This is exactly what you need to do as well yourself. You need to find this fire. You need to find this fire in your people that follow you, in the people that work with you, in the people that you sell stuff to. You need to find this horizon, your horizon. Right? You have to choose an horizon, and you have to forget and let go of all the other negative narratives that happens, because you have no freaking control. Is a recession going to happen? I don't fucking know. But if that's the only thing you have in mind, then you're not going to actually achieve the vision you set out to do. You have to choose and pick your horizon. And this is what good leaders do. They actually set these horizons, and this is how they go through heavy waters. They find that vision and say, no matter what happens between the horizon of today and the horizon there, I'm gonna try to steer the ship. I'm gonna maintain that fire. And great leaders are vulnerable. They actually open. They actually say to the other people, I am afraid. Follow me, but I am afraid. They create that bond around the narrative of being simply open. You have to do this. All the big companies in this world, all the successful leaders in this world have always shown vulnerability. You have to open. You have to say, I fucked up. You have to allow also people to do that with you, whether they are your customers or people that work with you, because otherwise you'll actually never be able to set the vision you set out to. You have to be a hero. Hero actually in Greek mythology, of course my last name is Greek, I'm Greek as well. I have 3 passports, guys, so I can choose which one I want when I do a speech. Hero was actually a woman, right? So you have to be a hero. And she was showing the light. She was actually holding a light, a guiding light to show where to go. This is what you have to do. To your people that work with you, to the people that buy the stuff you want to sell them to, and obviously as well to the people that follow you in your private life. You have to be this hero. If you're a parent, if you're a creator, if you're an innovator, actually you're like a good traveler. A good traveler, and I travel a lot, is someone who's not afraid of unknown territories. And this is what you are as an entrepreneur, as entrepreneurs as well. You're not there's no playbook. You just go and try to figure it out as you go. A good traveler arrives in a country, doesn't know what she or he will be doing, but figures it out. This is exactly what you need to do. You need to be in a state of discomfort. That's the most important thing. You have to accept the state of discomfort. That's the narrative you have to place in your mind. Don't be comfortable. And the only way I could find a way to visualize that is going to be my ending here, is to jump. And to jump, this is a funny slide, of course, is me jumping at the highest tower possible legally in the world. That's in Macau, in China. Well, this is exactly what you need to do. You need to learn that discomfort is part of your life and do that kind of shit. This is entrepreneurship, by the way. You just jump out of a tower and you figure it out on the way down. And of course you'll be fine because there's a cord that actually handles me at some point. But this is what you need to do. You need to find a narrative and you need to jump to be happy. Look at how happy I am when I'm reaching, no, I didn't die. Look, hey, here you go. Do you really want to be comfortable? No. Create a narrative. Be discomfortable. Accept and embrace discomfort. And on that, guys, thank you very much. I'm Papadimitriou.